You didn't know you needed to know these 7 things until you watched this video. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the 7 most important air travel tips that you did not know you need to know. Some of them might be obvious to seasoned travelers like myself, but if you're new to traveling or maybe you haven't traveled in a while, then these are 7 things that you're going to want to pay attention to. So, without further ado, let's get started. The first thing you need to know is something that I wish I knew sooner, especially considering how many flights I take every single year. It's the difference between the different types of tickets that you can book when purchasing your flight. Let me explain. There are 3 types of tickets: economy, business, and first class. And within each of those classes, there are different types of tickets. For example, economy has basic economy, which typically does not include a carry-on bag, standard economy, and economy plus. Business has standard business, and then business class. And first class also has standard first class and suites. So depending on the type of ticket that you buy, it will determine what kind of services you get and what kind of perks you get. So for example, with basic economy, you usually don't get any free checked bags. Sometimes you don't even get a carry-on. And that's why I always recommend checking what the baggage allowance is before you purchase your ticket. And by the way, if you're watching this video and you're thinking, "Ooh, I need to check what my ticket includes," go to the website where you purchased your ticket and look at the details there. If you booked through a third-party website like Expedia, Kayak, or Priceline, you'll need to go to their customer service chat to find out exactly what you have. But in general, it's good to know the difference between these types of tickets so you don't get any surprises. Now here's another travel hack that you need to know. Have you ever heard of hidden city ticketing? No, me neither. Essentially, hidden city ticketing is when you book a flight with a connecting flight somewhere else, because it's cheaper than booking a direct flight to your final destination. So, for example, let's say you wanted to fly from Chicago to New York. But if you look at the prices, it's really expensive. So instead, you decide to book a flight from Chicago to Atlanta, and then Atlanta to New York, because those individual flights are cheaper than the overall flight from Chicago to New York, right? Well, not necessarily. Because once you arrive in Atlanta, you're not going to go to New York, you're just going to get off the plane in Atlanta. That is called hidden city ticketing, and it's technically allowed, but airlines hate it. They do everything they can to prevent it. And actually, one airline in particular, Norwegian, they banned hidden city ticketing and they made it illegal in their terms and conditions. So now if you book a ticket with them and they find out that you didn't actually plan on taking the flight to your final destination, they can actually cancel your future bookings and ban you from the airline altogether. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do this, but if you do decide to do it, just know that airlines are onto us and they're banning it left and right. Here's another thing you need to know. Did you know that if you miss your connecting flight due to a delayed arrival of your previous flight, then you don't have to pay for a new ticket? Yeah, you don't have to pay for a new ticket because it's not your fault that you missed it. In this case, you're not getting a penalty for a missed flight. This only applies if your flights are part of the same ticket and you have less than 24 hours to get to your gate for your connecting flight. So for example, if your flight gets in late and you have 3 hours to get to your next gate, but it's a domestic flight, then you won't make it in time. And this is not your fault. The airline is responsible for getting you on the next available flight to your final destination. Even if it's first class and it's much more expensive than the original ticket that you had, they will pay for it. They will cover the cost because it's their fault that you missed that connection. This happens all the time, usually when there's weather delays, for example, and people end up missing their connecting flights. So if this happens to you, definitely let the gate agent know and they will help you out. Next up is something that you should always do before you board the plane. You should always check your phone after you check in for your flight. What are you checking for, you ask? Well, you're checking for any alerts that might affect your flight. Sometimes the airline will send out an alert saying that the flight is running late, or they will send a text message saying that the flight has been canceled and they need you to rebook. You can also check the flight status on the airport app or website, but honestly, sometimes the airline doesn't even tell you, so you just have to go onto the app yourself and look at the flight status. I do this all the time before heading to the airport, and you'd be surprised at how many flights are delayed or canceled before departure. If you do get a message saying that your flight is canceled, then go straight to the customer service desk to talk to someone in person. They will help you rebook a flight, and sometimes they will offer you a hotel and flight package where they pay for everything. It's a little bit easier than trying to do it on your own. By the way, if you're enjoying this video and you learned something new, be sure to hit that thumbs up button below. Alright, let's get into the next travel tip. Here's another thing that you need to know. Did you know that if you're flying internationally and you have checked bags, you can actually have an empty suitcase delivered to your hotel? Yep, it's true. You just need to check in both of your suitcases on the way there. So the first suitcase has your clothes and your shoes and everything, and then the second suitcase is completely empty. You can put all of your dirty laundry in that suitcase, and then when you're done with it, you can just check it on the way back home. And if it's an international flight, then your bag will go to baggage claim, and then it will just get sent back to your hotel. Now, they will charge you for this because they consider this a second checked bag, but I've done this multiple times, and it's so nice to come back to a clean room where I don't have to unpack dirty laundry. Also, if you're staying at a hotel that has laundry service, then you can just have them do your laundry for you. It will save you some time, and it's probably going to be cheaper than paying for 2 checked bags anyway. Okay, this next travel hack is pretty crazy. Did you know that you can book a flight and not actually use it to travel? Yep, it's true. You can use these flights as a form of transportation to sneak into other countries without having to pay for a visa. How does this work, you ask? Well, let me show you an example. Let's say you wanted to go to Cuba, but you don't have a Cuban visa. No problem. Just book a flight from the United States to Cancun, Mexico. Then book another flight from Cancun to Havana, Cuba. But don't actually plan on getting off the plane in Havana. Once you land in Cancun, you're going to get off the plane and then you're going to get back on the plane to Havana. You can literally use this flight to get into Cuba without paying for a visa. Now, technically, you're supposed to stay in the airport transit area, but if you're planning on leaving as soon as you arrive, then no one is going to know. Now, I'm not saying that you should do this, but I'm just saying that you can. The US has strict rules about traveling to Cuba, so if you're American, you cannot do this unless you fall under one of these 12 categories. So, yeah, just be careful if you're planning on doing this. And last but not least, something that you need to know before you travel. When you're packing your carry-on bag, be very careful about what you pack. I have actually had my bag searched 3 times by airport security, and it was so embarrassing because they tore apart my bag and took out all of my stuff. There's nothing worse than sitting there naked in an airport security line while you take out every single item in your bag. So, how do you avoid this? Well, listen up. First of all, never pack any liquids in your carry-on bag. Everything that is over 100 milliliters needs to go in your checked bag. Second, don't bring any sharp objects in your carry-on. This includes nail files, tweezers, scissors, anything that could be considered a weapon needs to go in your checked bag. And third, don't bring any powders. Believe it or not, airport security is very suspicious of powders because you can't bring any sort of substances on a plane. And yes, this includes baby powder. I learned this the hard way when I was traveling with my niece, and they took her baby powder and threw it away. It was so frustrating. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe. Safe travels! Bye!